Welcome to the Gentleman's Guide to the Accursed. Do you need something? Money to buy yourself a new car, maybe out of a bind? Maybe you're in debt and you just need someone to help take that edge off. Perhaps you need a passport to help you escape an increasingly oppressive country. Or just a new ID so you can evade notice. A new face might be in order and is just as available. You just need to ask the right person. Maybe a weapon will do the trick to make someone take their heel off of your neck. Drugs, perhaps. I mentioned taking the edge off. Sometimes the trick is just to not worry about your problems. Maybe you just fancy a stylish outfit, a new ride, a fresh tight orifice to screw without the fear of your girlfriend finding out about it. Well, for all these things and more, there's the network. Not the home shopping network, although there are some similarities in the sense that whatever it is you need, the network can provide. They will provide it to you, and providing you're prepared to meet the price, you'll get it in good time. Now, what that price happens to be depends on the individual network sorcerer that we're talking about. Some are quite happy to deal within the same mundane currencies as most of us. Others require a specific service, or the yielding of a person or skill that they prize as an asset, because the network see everything as an asset for them to exploit. Everything is an asset to them. You think you're washed up, you think you're down and out in debt, that no one wants you, that your family have left you, you are freshly divorced, you've been fired, there is nothing that you can offer. Well, feel empowered, because the network can find a use for you. Oh, it may not be legal, it may be completely illicit, but the service that you will provide for them is a service that someone else requires. Therefore, through that chain of logistics, you will demonstrate value, and they can then provide you something that you need. You see how this exchange goes? Of course, let's add the added incentive, complication, benefit, depending on who's on the receiving end of it, of magic. These sorcerers will perk you up. They will tell you exactly what it is you can do for them and exactly how they can pay you in return, and they will work their magic in such a way to make the most out of information, objects, and people. They can move themselves and you through space like that. They can tinker with the life's blood. They can sap abilities from others, literally draining power from people and places, and they can give it to you. It's not for free, but they can do it if you will do something for them. Everyone has a use to the network. Isn't that glorious? Isn't it generous? Oh, I've spoken about so many accursed families that seem to be all in it for themselves, and the network here are providing a valuable service. I've never met their family head, and to be sure, I'm not entirely certain there is one. I don't know that there ever was one. The network don't seem to be the kind of family who would place singular importance in one individual. Far from it. The name, of course, implies a network of people. That's not to say they don't treasure certain sorcerers more highly than others. I remember in the early 19th century, a sorcerer by the name of the Broker, an epithet, of course, and the network are very keen on epithets. If you don't know someone's name, you don't have ultimate power over them. Therefore, nicknames, very common. And this Broker, I want to say in about the 1840s, she knew everyone who you needed to know. She knew where all the best ports were, all the best captains of all the best ships, and of course, she was greatly prodigious when it came to magic. Few could match her in terms of magical logistics, and so across the Atlantic and across the Pacific, a time when cross-ocean travel was incredibly significant, she was well placed to elevate the entire network family. She had a stake in every major traffic operation, whether of people, objects, services, goods, spices, materials. She was there, in the middle, the broker, very, very powerful indeed. And the network revered her because of her status. She was, in a sense, a Queen Victoria-like character to them. But then the telegraph became ubiquitous across North America and Europe, the railroad as well, and I'm not sure the chain of events that led to this outcome, but I do know that she met the same fate as many connections, contacts of the network. She was sacrificed for something more. What did the network gain for throwing her from her pedestal? Ask Ainsley King, a network contact of mine, and he'll tell you, do you think all those railroads were laid without us gaining something from every conveyance of people and material across the world? He asked me, do you think the Edison company wasn't channeling all of its transmissions to us before they got to their dedicated recipients so that we could cream off any information, any secrets that we needed? Do I believe the network sacrificed their historical hold on logistics to gain a controlling interest in the future? Yes. This is the kind of thing that the network does. Let me give you an example. I once knew a sorcerer of this family who quite literally sacrificed his own sister to a battle-forged, a significant one, a major one, a devastating demon of a battle-forged, all in exchange for a dagger hewn within the outside. Now, the dagger wasn't for the sorcerer, the dagger was for a customer. Let me put that to you another way. This networker threw his own sister under the bus so that he could fulfill an order that was due. There was another one, I know she is still around today, always pleading, begging, crying about her broken heart. She has many relationships with decent people, but every single partner she ever meets, she dines them, wines them, sleeps with them, has a grand old time, and then abandons them, ghosts them, sometimes literally. Why? Well, after she's taken what she needs from them, she cuts herself off from them. Because this is what the network is compelled to do, whether it's your sister, whether it's your lover. Some sorcerers sacrifice blood, others sacrifice money or fame, reputation. The network sacrifices family, friends, lovers, colleagues, sometimes rivals if they're lucky, but not in a dagger to the heart kind of way. They lose them. They realize that people are currency, that contacts are just as valuable a form of sacrifice as the way I look at euro, kroner, and yen. As the name might imply, the network is not some tightly knit family of mothers and fathers who keep a tight leash on their sons and daughters. Well, it would be pretty hazardous for them to do so, wouldn't it, given how readily they're prepared to sacrifice each other for just another ounce of power. Keep in mind, it's these sacrifices that allow them to use their magic to such amazing effect. Why risk cultivating a strong relationship with offspring, spouse, or sibling when one day you may need to burn them to fuel your sorcery? Like all sorcerers, the network are addicts. They want to be at the spiderweb's middle. They need to know everything coming and going. They therefore readily exchange information with each other, even across long distances. The internet is a great help for this, but sometimes objects, information, intelligence is so arcane that there needs to be a physical connection. But they always hold back just a little from their peers. The rivalry within the network is intense. Every sorcerer from within this family sees themselves at the center of their own universe. Everything else, everyone else is in their orbit. And yes, they might enrich their family through their actions, but never to the extent that they have more than the operative sorcerer. They need to be in the middle of the web. And unlike the archivists who traffic largely in information, secret names, locations of outside gateways and liminalities, it's control over people, places, artifacts, highways, rivers, ships, planes, whatever you can imagine. The network want it all, and intelligence is only the start of the logistical chain. When the network cast out the broker and took their next step in magical elevation toward their damnation, I wonder what became of her. Did she have to start again from nothing? Was she destroyed or removed from the network's communal memory? What a valuable piece on the board she would be for a sorcerer of this family to control if they could find her. Yes, it's possible she's an antique from a forgotten era now, but her curse would be strong, ripe even. Imagine the retribution she could be compelled to practice against the family that betrayed her. I'm told the family's origins stem back to the trade of heirlooms across the length of the so-called Silk Road, across Eurasia. And back then, the merchant princes who ultimately came to form the network, they controlled the tradeways through sacrifice of their firstborns. They would wear the skulls of their firstborn sons as necklaces and on belts to demonstrate to others the lengths they were prepared to go to protect their assets and what passes over borders and into the hands of their allies and customers. Of course, this magic only extended so far, and their enemies were many. After a century of hegemony, they were weak and knew that their eldest now, the merchant princes themselves, would need to die to continue their control over this logistical enterprise. Not one of these merchant princes was prepared to die as easily as they were prepared to kill. And so their control collapsed, and the network slunk into the shadows for centuries. Some believe this is where they first earned their damnation, that trying to re-establish themselves on the world's stage, such as it was back then, was what made them into a family of sorcerers. Who did they make this deal with? I'm told an entity, an alien of some kind, from the outside. Some use the word fae. That is a part of expertise that I sadly lack. I had one or two run-ins with an ascetic, and now I can no longer remember. You realise that many among the network have to have their own brand of sociopathy. You see, there are some sorcerers, some accursed, who wear their damnation on their sleeve. The heirs consume hearts. The Bathorites bathe in blood. The spawn of Vodnik are unsettling to behold, almost as unsettling as the Chimera. And, of course, then you have the Reeves with their blood sacrifices and so on. Sometimes the damnation and the torment is grotesque and apparent. The network are not nearly so obvious because they provide a service. People see what they do as necessary. Notwithstanding the fact that the network are prepared to chop people away from their life to do what they need to do to gain power. There is not a sorcerer within the network who has not at some point cut off a relationship. And this could be as simple as dumping a lover to abandoning a family or a child just for another morsel of magical power. There's always the possibility, that the broker did what so few of the network are prepared to do. She sacrificed herself for the family. That through her death or her disappearance from their memory, the family ascended to where they are now. There's a reason they're so powerful today. And it's not just a good grasp on what goes where and how. Maybe it is possible to find a selfless networker. Well, I've yet to meet one, but, we can always hope.